So today, we're going to dive into a really powerful strategy that's helping businesses build smarter, more sustainable products, and here's the kicker, without having to sacrifice their bottom line. It's an idea that is absolutely reshaping modern industry, so let's get right into it.
For what feels like forever, this has been the big question, right? It's that classic standoff. Do you chase financial success or do you focus on being environmentally responsible? For a long time, the thinking was that it had to be one or the other, which really put businesses in a tough spot. But what if that whole idea is just wrong?
Well, to try and figure that out, people in charge have usually looked at their products through two totally different lenses. Each one is really powerful, but here's the catch. On its own, it's giving you an incomplete picture of what's really going on. Let's break them down. On one hand, you've got what's called life cycle cost analysis, or LCA. You can think of this as the money lens. It looks at every single dollar and cent tied to a product, from the initial investment and raw materials, through all the operating and maintenance costs, right up to the very end when it's time for disposal. Then on the other hand, you've got the environmental assessment, or EA. This lens measures the ecological side of things. We're talking carbon footprint, how many resources you're using up, and the energy consumed over that exact same life cycle.
Okay, so here's the problem. If you only look through that cost lens, you might grab the cheaper material, right? But you'd be totally blind to its potentially massive environmental cost. Flip it around, and if you only use the environment lens, you might pick a super green option that's just way too expensive to ever work in the real world. When you rely on just one, you're not just missing the trade-offs, you're missing out on some huge opportunities.
So the real breakthrough here isn't about picking one lens over the other. No, the magic happens when you merge them. By putting these two views together, we can finally see the whole picture, a full, three-dimensional view of a product's true value and its real impact.
Think of it like this. Say you're planning a road trip. The cost view just shows you the cheapest route, but that route might take you through hours of bumper-to-bumper traffic and guzzle a ton of gas. The environment view shows you the most fuel-efficient route, but it might send you down a scenic path lined with expensive toll booths. It's only that integrated view that shows you the best way to go, the one that's easy on your wallet and the planet. You just have to have both sets of info to make the smartest call.
And hey, this isn't just a nice little analogy. The research puts it perfectly. Bringing these two approaches together gives you a dual perspective that shines a light on trade-offs and synergies that you would have otherwise completely missed. It's all about finding those win-win situations where what's good for the planet is actually really good for business.
All right, so this all sounds great in theory, but, does it actually work out in the real world? The answer is a big yes. Let's dive into some real-world examples and see how this integrated strategy is already getting some major wins.
So for our first case, we're heading into the world of timber construction, and we're going to look at bio-based adhesives versus the old-school synthetic ones. A study from Zazo and his team dug into both the cost and the environmental impact here. And as you can see, the bio-based options had a way lower environmental footprint. But here was the truly key finding. Their total life cycle cost was pretty much the same as the synthetics. What does this tell us? It's a perfect example that going green doesn't automatically mean you have to spend more money.
Okay, next up, we're getting even closer to home, literally. We're talking about the actual walls of our houses. Researchers took a close look at conventional building materials and compared them to earthen walls.
And their integrated analysis was a total game changer. I mean, just look at the difference in environmental impact. It was way, way lower for the earthen walls. And here's the kicker. When they sourced the materials locally, it also brought down costs and transportation emissions. It's a beautiful example of a sustainable choice also being the smarter economic one.
Okay, for our last case, let's look at those really expensive, high-value manufacturing tools. The big question was this: is it better to repair a worn-out mold using some advanced tech, or is it better to just scrap it and make a new one from scratch?
Well, the research from Gouveia and their team made it crystal clear. It wasn't even a contest. Repairing the mold was a huge win on every level. You extend the product's life, you drastically cut down on raw materials, you minimize waste. I mean, this is the circular economy in action, and it proves to be better for both the budget and the environment.
So, these individual examples are pretty powerful, right? But the real revolution, the thing that changes everything, is when this kind of thinking gets baked into the entire manufacturing system.
And you know what? We actually have the tech to do this, right now, on a massive scale. Things like Industry 4.0 and the Internet of Things allow us to use sensors to monitor everything in real time, which helps slash waste. We've got decision support tools that can instantly model the cost and the carbon footprint of any choice we make. Heck, even technologies like blockchain can create a totally transparent supply chain so you know the real impact of every single component.
All right, let's pull all these threads together. When you start integrating these two perspectives, you realize the whole question we started with was framed completely the wrong way. And that brings us to the most important takeaway of all. It was never profit versus planet. The smartest companies are figuring out that sustainable practices actually lead directly to being more profitable. It's profit through planet.
Look, adopting this integrated view isn't just some nice-to-have, feel-good thing. It is a straight-up strategic advantage. It forces you to innovate, to find smarter materials and better processes. It unlocks all these new cost savings by cutting waste and energy use. And at the end of the day, it just makes your business more resilient and more competitive in a world that is demanding sustainability.
And that really just leaves us with one final thought. With everything going on today, resource scarcity, customers demanding green products, new regulations popping up, the question really isn't if companies should adopt this integrated approach. The real question is, how long can they afford not to?